That means, according to the sutra, he ate during that 6 years period, he ate only 1 grain of rice each day. That's why he was so thin. And you can see very clearly his muscles and his bones. Usually we will call that time is his 6 years of practicing asceticism. And we are talking about these topic, but we changed to another word, austerities. Why Master Xing Yun wants to mention about this? And in his writings, he has different meaning for these words. Even though we don't go to 2 extremes of practicing, 2 extremes of practicing. The first one is asceticism, right? It's a suffering and self-torture practice. And the other side is too comfortable, is too non-active. So these 2 extremes in Buddhism practicing, we call extremes. But when we use this austerities, is a kind of a meaning with spiritual. Okay, so we use these words. Okay, can I have the second one? So first, we would like to take a look of a definition of austerity. You can see these 2 pictures, it's so suffering. But at the same time, with an attitude of sternness. So we have the same meaning with austerity, that's non-indulgence. And also kind of suffering because it's not comfortable. It's not pleasant. And we can see the other words, asceticism, or a kind of harshness. Of course, it's it's very harsh. And also hardness and inclemency is unpleasant situation, and is a kind of inflexibility, and is rigidity, and very seriously. And it's a kind of solemnity, and with strong will, and that's a kind of sternness. So all these words is similar to austerity. But just as I said, when we use this word, austerity has the meaning of the spiritual tolerance. So when we say we are not practicing both extremes, we are not practicing asceticism, but still we practice the sternness. We practice with great patience. So when we use this word austerity, actually is a lot meaning with our patience, with our willness. So that's the first. We will take a look at the definition of austerity. Even though it's a little bit suffering, but the suffering may be transformed into the great power, the great strength. That's first we will see the definition of austerity. You can say sometimes austerity has the kind of is not in a good situation, but we try to urge ourselves to be more positive. I think that's the good definition of austerity. Even though it's adversity, even though the situation is very harsh, but we cultivate our tolerance, we cultivate our patience to endure that. And that's not a self-torture. That kind of power, that kind of strength is because we experience and we practice our compassion, we practice our patience, we cultivate our tolerance to all kinds of situations. Okay. So we are going into the meaning of austerity. So can I have the next one, please? In the writing, first, our master said, suffering usually is used by people when we talk about austerity, but it says sometimes the austerity, the suffering will give us strength. So what's the true meaning behind the suffering? He said austerity can be helpful and beneficial to our growth, our personal growth, and also allow us to temper and learn and train and elevate and transcend ourselves and bring out the joy of Dharma practicing. And sometimes the worst of times can bring out the best of people. And also, he said, how can success be achieved without years of diligent study? So he said, instead of all pure suffering, austerity, if we cultivate ourselves more, it can be helpful for us. It can be beneficial to our growth. So take a look of the example of Master Xing. He had a book in Chinese as 我不是假告的和尚, and in English the translation is, the title is I'm Not a Monk Sponging Off Buddhism. In that book, it has 3 parts. The second part, there is one writing saying that he said when he was at the age of 90, he had a comment to his life. He said, I was born into tribulation and I was raised in adversity, but I experienced a lifetime of joy. In Chinese, that's 生于忧患，长于困难，喜悦一生. So can you imagine a person who had adversity most all in his life, and when he was 90 years old, he still feel the joy of Dharma? I think that's very difficult for us, at least to me. I cannot say that. How can I feel the joy after I experienced so many difficulties? And especially, I was born in the wartime. We see the war between Russia and Ukraine. All the people suffered with war. They have hate, they have anger, they want to revenge. How can be they receive or cultivate compassion and joy? I don't think it's a very easy way. But out of his Master Xing Yun's experience, he had that conclusion. He has, I also experienced a lifetime joy. So I was so touched by these, because even in our lifetime, of course, we were not born in the wartime. We still have so many comfortable life. But I'm imagining myself, if I live up to 90 years old, I won't have the conclusion like Master Xing Yun. He said, experience a lifetime joy. So we may ask ourselves that, if I have 90 years lifespan in my life, will I do the conclusion like Master Xing Yun? And of course, I don't think I can live up to 90 years old. But if you live up to the 90 years old, can you have that kind of conclusion? I think he had the conclusion because he said in his book, in his writing, austerity can be helpful and can be beneficial to his growth. And he himself learned a lot, even though he had a lot of adversity, a lot of difficulty. He learned and he trained himself to elevate and transcend uncomfort situation. So that's why he had carried out the joy of Dharma practicing. And in his writing, he said, I have faith. Why did I have the joy? Why did I have the joy of Dharma? Because I have faith to Buddhism. And I believe, that's what he said, I believe the idea or the conception, Buddhism depends on me, support me always. And he always did the recollection, keep asking himself, do I like a monk? So all these brings out his achievement. So he said the worst times can bring out the best of people. So even though went through all series of austerity, suffering, difficulty, adversity, he cultivated the best quality of his human nature. So he also said his success can only be achieved with years of diligent study, of diligent learning. I think if you, just like the master Xing any one of us here, if we went through the experience like Master Xing maybe we'll like him, but maybe not. Because if we think about negativity of our life, we won't have that kind of support. If we just think about how suffered am I, just keep thinking about that. I cannot go through all the difficulties. If we keep thinking about, I have a lot of complaint, I have a lot of worries, anxiety, how can I go through all this? If we keep thinking that way, of course, we cannot experience the joy of Dharma. So pure from the experience of Master Xing himself, he can say very proudly that he overcome himself. Even though he was born into tribulation, even though he raised in adversity, but he experienced a lifetime joy. I would like to give another example. Please see the, your right-hand side picture. That's a picture with a very large statue, stone statue of the Maitreya Buddha. The statue was carved out from a cliff face. Actually, it's a mountain originally. 71 meters high. And it was built between the cliffs. They started from carving out the head of Maitreya Buddha. Why they doing this? The highest cliff, the Maitreya Buddha statue, situated in Sichuan province in mainland China, in Leshan County. Back to 713 years, that was in Tang Dynasty, because that place is the intersection of 3 rivers. So it's always flooded, and it's too dangerous for people to have boat. The boat always overturned in the water. So they started to have the idea to carve out a big stone statue. And these projects last for 90 years, not 19, it's 90, 90, is almost 1 century. Started by a monk after the death of the monk, and continue by 2 officers. So after the 90 years, the 71 meters high statue is completed. And according to the locals, the statues right now, maybe you see that's closed eyes, but usually he was open eyes. But according to the local people, They said they saw the Maitreya Buddha close his eyes and shed tears for 4 times. And one time is the big famine in mainland China in 1959. And the second time is 1963. There was the record. And also during the Tangshan earthquake in 1976. And recently is 1994, there was the big flood in Leshan County. So through all these suffering and all these austerity, this statue was built. And also right now it becomes a scenic spot. People will go to visit there. But the story behind the big statues is the practice and cultivation of compassion. That's that kind of compassion sustain the will of the monk. That's why he collected and he asked for donation from all of the people and started to carve these big statues. So from these two big, the example, the first is our Master Xingyun, and the second one is the Leshan big Buddha statue. We can see that, and we can also feel that the spirit behind austerity. Master Xingyun, he is not practicing blindly. He is not practicing asceticism, but he practicing austerity. He can endure his suffering, and that kind of suffering he thinks is only the power and only the support for him. Sometimes we just naturally, we treat difficulty and we don't like that, just like the enemy. We don't like difficulties. We hate negativity. But since, just think about it, if we hate negativity, when we don't like and we hate and give us some kind of negativity already, and negativity plus negativity, and it's double negativity, right? So why can we just convert ourselves? We don't treat negativity or suffering as negativity and suffering. Just like our Master Xingyun, he said negativity can be beneficial. Negativity can be helpful. So we can convert or transform our thinking. And our thinking can affect our behavior. And our behavior can bring out the positive result. So I think the procedure, turning the suffering or transform the suffering situation into a growth into a strength. I think that's the procedure, or at least I'm looking that way when I read these words from his writing, from Master Xing Yun's writing. So that's the meaning. I can feel that, and also that's the words from Master Xing Yun's writing. He didn't say any negativity about the suffering and difficulties. He only said, I can transcend, I can transform the negativity into positivity, because that's a kind of practicing. Because he said, there's no success can be achieved without years of diligence. He practiced tolerance, endurance, and also compassion. With all this practice, he had compassion, he had loving kindness, because he experienced everything during this procedure. Okay, so since we know the meaning of austerity, then how can we practice? Can I have the next one? The next one, PPT. Okay, so we all know there is a saying that practice makes perfect, right? So that's the same thing. We practice, but since we don't agree with the two extremes, not practicing asceticism and not go into indulgence of enjoyment. So how can we practice? How to practice austerity? So from the book, from the writing, Master said, it's so simple. Just act like a normal people. What's normal people do? We eat when it's time to eat, right? We sleep when it's time to sleep. Maybe you will think that's so simple. But can you believe that people nowadays, not all the people sleep when it's time to sleep? That's the fact, right? And as the director of a small preschool kids, we have 25 preschool kids. And there's one thing I found out. It's always a very very difficult to let the kids to take nap. In our school, we have a napping time from 12:30 to 2:30, 2 hours, because that's the regulation from the school district. But it's very hard to put the kids into sleep. They always make noises. They always cry out loud. So sometimes we have to take out these, the kids, they don't want to sleep. We separate them in order we can let others to go sleep. So you see, because they don't like sleep, they said, I sleep only at night. I don't sleep during the day. So even these, you eat and sleep like a normal person. You eat and sleep naturally. It's sometimes it's a little bit hard for other people. And maybe you have difficulty to sleep at night. They said when you grow older, you sleep less. I don't know if it's true or not, but maybe we will have that kind of problem. We have that kind of difficulty. So when we practice, we act like normal people. And also, we follow the guidance of Noble Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is the right view and right thinking or right resolve. And we have right speech, we have right action, we have right behavior, we have a right livelihood, and we have, of course, right effort or diligence. And we have right mindfulness, and we practice concentration, practice meditation. So that's a very normal practice. Of course, we need the right view. Without a right view, we might get the wrong conception. The wrong conception will lead us to a wrong way, right? And when we practice, we need the right thinking. The right thinking is that just like Master Xing Yun. Master Xing Yun doesn't think suffering is real suffering. He wants to transform the suffering. So that's the right thinking and the right speech. We don't say harsh words. We say good words. And we accumulate our merits by doing good things. That's our behavior. And also, we have the proper occupation. We have proper work. And we practice with diligence. And we practice meditation. So that's all we can do in our living. So that's very normal and also normal ways to practice in our life. And of course, we don't fall into two streams. Self-torture is one of the extremes, and indulge in enjoyment, that's another extremes. We follow the middle path, and mostly and constantly we have trained our minds. When we sit for 5 minutes meditation or 5 minutes sitting, and we can recall what did we speak, what we have done, and give ourselves a space to do recall, to do the reviewing of ourselves. So that's the way we train our mind daily, step by step, See, even though Master Xing Yun had gone through a series of wartime, a series of adversity, difficulties, sufferings, but he didn't tell us, you should do, or you should go to the same suffering with me. He didn't say that. Instead, he told us, just follow the Buddha's words. The Buddha said, Eightfold Path. The Buddha said, the middle path. The Buddha said, we practice cultivation. We practice our compassion. We cultivate our wisdom. We cultivate our patience. So that's the practice. Just follow the Buddha's words. And we believe that practice makes perfect. If we want to alleviate ourselves, then we just follow the guidance from the Eightfold Path. Okay, so that's the way the Master Xing Yun told us in his books. So I'm going to read one very, if you have book, please, that you can find the paragraph I'm going to read at 61, the last paragraph. He said, what do we mean the practice? Sometimes, he said, for instance, some people find chanting the Buddha's name a burdensome task. Let me see. No. We have, this is, maybe on the 2, the number 2, the second first one.
Page, last
This is the end. We need more upper.
First
upper.
page. It's on the first page.
For instance, For instance, some people find chanting the Buddha's name a burdensome task, while others find it joyful. Just like we pay pilgrimage, right? Maybe you have seen people, they walk 3 steps forward and they do the prostration. And when we do the pilgrimage to, in China, pay pilgrimage to the 4 Buddhist mountain, the 4 famous Buddhist mountain. We will do that, take 3 steps and we bow down. That's what we call in Chinese 三步一拜. And sometimes for non-Buddhists, they will think, oh, that's a very burdensome task. I can do it. I cannot do it. But for the people who practice and who want to do the practicing, and they think it's joyful. So some people find it prostrating to the Buddha, it's laborious, while others find it pleasant. So it's according to our conception. And some people take the act of giving to be a kind of suffering. So there is no definite conception to everyone. So we can practice generosity, but sometimes other people think it's very difficult to give out things. So some people think that treating others well and forming affinities to be a pain, while others think altruism is the basis of happiness. So it depends on the conception. If we think it's a suffering, and then it's a suffering. If we think it's a joyful thing, then we become joyful. So it's two different values, depend on each one thinking. And by finding joy in the experience of suffering, using it as a lesson in cultivation and transcendence, one's faith will surely be elevated as a result. So you can see the last sentence. Master Xingyun himself really did it. He treated suffering, harshness is a lesson in cultivation and transcendence. So of course, he made a great achievement. So from his writing, he didn't say it according to others' experience. He said it by his own experience. So why, when we read his words, we feel that in our heart? It's not just like pretty words. It's just like, oh, you say good words and that's it. That's good, that's right. But I don't know, I just feel that when he said that, it's real because he gone through all this. That's why he had that conclusion. Okay, thank you. So we know that the way of practicing austerity, we don't have to practice asceticism, but also we are not practicing indulgence. We practice the middle way, okay? Because constant practice makes us more perfect. Just like the pearl you see on this picture. The pearl, how can be a pearl? A pearl in a shell. It needs more time, gradually. We all know the pearl, when they eat the shell, when it is live, the shell just digest anything from the seed. So gradually, when they ate up the dust, a grain of sand, and they make it into a pearl. And the pearl is round, and the pearl is shining. And we see the result of the pearl. But the process is long. So we know that the Buddhist practice, we say we just do it step by step. And at the last sentence. Master Xing said the Buddhist practice is neither too strenuous nor too placid. Well, the placid, that means we become lazy, we have less movement or activity, we don't practice diligence. The Buddhist practice, the main point is train our mind. If our mind setting up to do the practice, then we will get up and to practice. If we, or our mind, or our conception, we say, oh, it's too difficult. I will do it sometimes, or I do it later, or let me have a rest. Then we become a little bit lazier, and we become too placid. So the practice, the main goal is to train our mind, because our mind will bring out our action. And the action will bring out the result. What are we going to practice? We practice the middle path. And the middle path is a path that is between suffering and bliss, which means the suffering, you think that's a suffering, but maybe for others, it's not the suffering. So think about that. Is the suffering we are now taking, is that real suffering for the world? So suffering, sometimes we see others suffering. We take pity on them. And at the meantime, we cultivate our compassion. Even though the suffering may be not my suffering, but we can feel. So that's the mind training. When we feel, our heart becomes more compassionate. We can feel the suffering from the world, from others. And we can practice more. And that's the procedure. And of course, that's a training. Takes the ordinary mind as the middle way. And consequently, our master Xing said, only practices that accord with a regulated lifestyle and the middle path can be considered Buddhist methods of cultivation. We have lived that long. So in our life period, we can do it little by little. Because when we have difficulties and we think about others suffering, when we are happy, we wish all the happiness for the world. When we have anything coming up to our mind, we think about others. So when we say suffering, harshness, sternness or any negativity, we can practice ourselves to ask ourselves, is this real a suffering? Is it suffering to me, but maybe not to others? Is this the suffering for suffering that cannot have a resolution? We can think about that way so that our mind can be more healthier. Just like Master Xing Yun, he treated the suffering as a way to become more better. So as a result, to follow the middle path and practice the Noble Eightfold Path would be our way to practice and become a Buddhist. So that's that's what I'm going to I share with you for today. So we have some more minutes for you to share your thinking, or what do you think about after reading the Master Xing Yun's writing? Can someone just share some sentences? If not, can I ask or invite some of you?
Shifu,
Yes.
hi,
Oh,
Jishan Shifu. Yeah, I would like to instead of can I ask a question if it's okay?
yeah.
I would like to know how can we practice a good, or develop a right speech to other people?
The right speech for other people.
Yeah.
Okay, can you give us an example?
Because I have some experience that I just realized that sometimes when
Mhm,
we say not good to others, it will gonna inflict hurtful feelings and
mhm,
discomfort to others. And
mhm,
but in my side, I think I'm right, but on the other side, you know,
mhm,
they're hurting and they're suffering, and that is why
mhm,
what would be the best way, especially us as young adults, and how can we develop a good practice for doing
mhm.
a right speech?
Oh, so do you mean that if you have conflict with others, so how can we still practice good speech during that the conflict moment? Is that right?
Yes, usually
Yeah.
and often.
Yeah, of course, it's very hard. How can we practice during the most the suffering moment, right? If you want to just if you want to practice good speech or good words to the people who did it wrong, who treat you wrong, it's very, very hard. And at that moment, you couldn't say a word of goodness. But we can practice at that moment, confronting moment, conflict moment. My experience is that I let others to say, if you think I need to talk to that person and I knew that person will use harsh words for me, how do? I have to talk it clear and let that person just talk. And after talking, then you give out your opinion, your patience, and first you think on that person's stand. You think about the person, why that person use harsh words or have the conflict with you. Before you go to see that person and talk it clear with that person. Before you go, or at the moment, you have first have the patience. And then you said, I should cultivate compassion to that person. Listen to that person. And lastly, give your opinions with good words, with patience. I think we can do that. Okay, so that's my experience. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Let me see, we have a chat here. Anyone who wants to share when you have a kind of austerities, how you consolve this? Anyone wants to share? Okay. Can I have one more person? Anyone? You have a example, very simple example. Do you have quarrel with your family members? No? Wow.
I've got an example.
Yeah, good, please. You have fight with the brothers?
No, a pretty simple one. When I was growing up as a kid, we lived in New Zealand and we had a big garden and huge garden, and Dad would be doing the gardening and us kids will have to pick out all the weeds for him. It's a big garden, it's a lot of work. As a kid, I hated doing it. I disliked doing it naturally. But yeah, we were forced, you know.
And forced to do that. Yeah.
And I think a couple of weeks ago at the temple, they chopped down some trees, and then we had to help the garbage collector move the tree stumps onto the garbage garbage truck. And I was doing it, and it's sort of hard work, but because I've done it before, it was a lot easier, and I was doing it with joy because it was actually quite fun. So without actually doing some gardening when I was younger, I would probably dislike the helping out at the temple. But because I did in the past, it was actually quite happy and joyous because I get to do it again. So it was quite nice.
Okay. You got a really developed cultivation. Yeah, you have endurance and you have a very positive thinking. Okay, so it's good. So let's keep practicing because we are learning Dharma, and the Dharma tell us how to practice. Okay, and we just keep doing that. Okay, so if there is no one to share, maybe we can end up today's reading. Thank you.
Okay, no one has any question? None, any of you have any reflection?
Maybe nobody practice austerity.
Before, I'll just share one short. I think that
Okay. Okay.
vegetarianism is an austerity, practice
Uh-huh.
of austerity. When you're vegetarian, it's a way of people think that it's extreme, right? Like, some people think that you're suffering when you're vegetarian. But initially, of course, because I was always eating meat before, but when I turned vegetarian, a
Mm.
year into vegetarianism, you still have the craving for meat, and
Oh.
you suffer because your friends are eating and you're not. So when you have craving, you suffer. But once you're past after 3 years, my craving was gone.
Mm.
So 3 years into being vegetarian, the craving was gone. So I wouldn't suffer anymore. And my friends noticed that when they're eating meat, I would just tell them, "Oh, go ahead and enjoy. I'm fine." I would be calm, because before, when I just turned vegetarian, I would react. I would say, "Ah, why are you eating that?" And I'm saying things like that, which was silly, of course, because they're enjoying it. Why should I
Yeah.
keep them from enjoying that? And so they were thinking that I wasn't enjoying because I was miserable. But the truth was because I was craving in the beginning. But after the austerity of, it was quick for me, 3 years, then
Mm.
I lost the craving. So I realized, oh, there's no point in telling my friends to stop eating that in front of me. It's not all about me, really. Just
Mm.
so instead of saying that, don't eat that when I'm there, I just say that, enjoy what you're eating and I'm fine. So when they offer me, well, yeah, when they offer me meat and stuff, because they're thinking, especially the older ladies, older society ladies, because they're so used to caviar and foie gras and all those really rich food. But when they'd see me and say, "Oh, pobrecito," "Oh, poor you, you're not enjoying." So I just say that, "Tita," tita means auntie, "Tita, it's okay, tita. I'm enjoying my food. So just enjoy your food," like that. So when you lose a craving, you enjoy it. So it's not a form of austerity anymore. It's not a form of suffering. It's something that you enjoy. So when I eat vegetarian food, I enjoy it. And the next step actually is having no notions of vegetarianism, but that's already far. I mean, that's a deeper way of looking at it. Right now, I'm just in the stage of just um eating vegetarian food and enjoying it, and whoever's with me and enjoying their food, let them enjoy it also. So I said, just enjoy it for me. If you like lechon, just enjoy yourself, and I'm fine.
Oh,
I'm glad to
good.
see that you're enjoying.
You
Thank you, Sip.
practicing endurance first, and then you practice good speech to others. That's very good. And I have a question from the chat box asking, when you cover others' duties because they refuse to do it, oh, that's not very good, right? And what shall I do to transform my mind to accept this duty assigned? Okay, that's a very difficult situation. But just like our master told us, yeah, you accepting others' duties because they refuse to do it. And first, you're just thinking you are helping people. They refuse to do the work. Maybe they don't like that kind of work, or maybe they have some difficulty to do the work. So if I face that kind of situation, I will help them, but I assist them. But I will talk to them to figure out why they refuse to do their assignment. just like we're helping the kids, they refuse to do things must have a reason. I know not only kids, but when we refuse to do something, there's a reason behind it. So maybe you can figure out or find out the reason why. And after find out the reason, then you just encourage that person to accept their assignment. You can help them, but you cannot help them to grow because they are losing a chance to learn. From our master's experience, he treated all kinds of situations as the support of learning, support of his growing. So I think if I were you, I'll do it that way, okay? Just a suggestion. Or from others' point of view, just help that person to find out the answers and find out the resolution. Okay, so it's very good to have OJ gave us the example of diligence in practicing vegetarianism before learning to enjoy being vegetarian. Yeah, that's the Irving feedback from your experience. So anyone else wants to share your difficulty when you're facing, how you face your difficulties or your austerities?
Good evening. Can I share something?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Please. Yeah.
Yes.
Just go
Good
ahead.
evening, teacher. Good evening, everyone.
Right.
What's this about austerity? Austerity, right? It's something that you try to lose some kind of comfort within yourself. Like for example, instead of riding a car or riding like a jeepney, or that's our transportation here in the Philippines, or tricycle. Instead of riding it, I just practice myself to walk where I go. Like sometimes I go like I walk about uh, maybe almost 5 kilometers just to um, to be at a certain place instead of riding my car, or
Mhm.
riding a jeep. And in a way, it helps. It helps a little. It helps me a lot to at least give myself some kind of what's this contentment, and to lose some comfort, because it's I was used to like just driving the car and everything. But when I started like just walking to places where I want to go, somehow it gives me some kind of peace in a way. Maybe because there's a return, there's a positive return to it. So yeah, it gives me, I don't know, I'm more aware of things that surrounds me. I'm more aware. Maybe I'm being more mindful of my surroundings, because I do it on my own pace. Of course, like if I'm in a hurry, I just try to like set my time earlier if I wanted to, to reach a certain place. And sometimes like I can even go like beyond 5 kilometers, sometimes even more if I have the time. instead of um, riding a car or jeepney or tricycle
Mm.
or some type of transportation. So
Oh,
I think that's one austerity. I think that
mhm.
like I remove some kind of comfort in exchange for something more simpler, something more something simpler. And at the same time, it gives some kind of peace at the same time. So there's a huge benefit as far as I'm concerned.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you for sharing. You have preparation. When we come from some difficulties, we prepare ourselves. I think that's a very good suggestion. I know it will be a difficulty. I know it will be hard for me, but it's okay. I prepare myself. I just did my best. And then I won't get very maybe I won't get very uh, stressed. I won't get stressed out. So be prepared to receive any kind of situation. Yeah, it's a very good practice. Okay, thank you for your sharing. Anyone?
Thank you, teacher. Thank
Thank you. If not, I think we can make the conclusion today by transferring the merit. May kindness.
Okay, please join palms. Mm.